All right, so today we're going to untangle a pretty wild story. We're pulling on a thread that connects Jeffrey Epstein, the future of AI, and a massive data project happening in Africa. It sounds disconnected, I know, but let's see just where this leads.
So I know what you're probably thinking. How on earth could those three things possibly be linked? A disgraced financier, millions of kids, and cutting-edge AI? They seem like they're from totally different universes. But stick with me, because our source material uncovers some connections that are, well, they're as shocking as they are troubling.
To really get our heads around this, we have to start in a surprising place: Jeffrey Epstein's deep, deep ties to the tech world. Turns out, his influence stretched way beyond what most people know, right into the very heart of Silicon Valley.
Look, Epstein wasn't just some outsider looking in. He was deeply embedded. The source material shows this trail of emails, from top tech executives who wanted to meet with him. We're talking about a who's who of Silicon Valley showing up at his parties. He was a player.
And it's at one of these gatherings that the story takes a really dark turn. According to the source, Epstein made this just chilling statement. It's the moment that connects his influence in the tech world to a whole new continent, Africa. He apparently called it fertile ground for experimentation.
And that quote, it wasn't just some bizarre off-the-cuff remark. No, it's actually the key to unlocking the central claim in our source material, that Jeffrey Epstein was bankrolling a hugely controversial AI project in Ethiopia.
And the source is super specific about this. It says Epstein's money was directly fueling an AI lab run by a scientist who's described as an overtly transhumanist figure. We'll dig into what that means in a second, but basically, it's the belief that we humans can and should use technology to evolve way beyond our natural limits.
So, what was this experiment? Well, according to our source, it was a program on a scale that is just mind-boggling, and it was aimed directly at children.
Just let that number sink in for a minute. 5 million. 5 million kids in Ethiopia were enrolled in this new digital ID system. This wasn't some tiny little pilot program. This was a colossal data harvesting operation. And the goal wasn't exactly a secret either. The source lays it out pretty plainly. This whole thing was about harvesting data from children to train an AI. And not just any AI. We're talking about the AI that powers those incredibly advanced, lifelike humanoid robots. Okay, so who are the actual players in this story? Let's take a second and just map out the network of people and companies connecting the money to the machines.
Here's a quick look at the main players. So you've got Ben Goertzel. He's the head AI scientist. He's also the chief scientist at a company called Hanson Robotics. They're the ones who actually built that famous robot, Sophia. Then you have Cardano, a big blockchain company that helps set up the digital ID part of the project. And according to our source, connecting it all is Jeffrey Epstein, who is providing the cash for Goertzel's work.
And that robot, Sophia, she's a pretty big character in this story too. In a move that made headlines all over the world, she was actually granted citizenship in Saudi Arabia. But here's the kicker. Our source points out that at that exact time, one of the key advisors to the Saudi leader was, you guessed it, Jeffrey Epstein.
All of this just raises this one giant question, right? Why? Why would anyone want to do this? Well, the answer, according to our source, is rooted in this really strange and powerful ideology that's been bubbling up in Silicon Valley for a while now. It's called TESCREL, which is a mouthful of an acronym, I know. But basically, it's a catch-all term for a bunch of interconnected beliefs. You've got things like transhumanism in there, which is that idea of using tech to upgrade our bodies and minds. And then there's long-termism, which is this intense focus on making sure humanity survives deep into the future, even if it means we have to colonize other planets to do it. It's a really complex worldview, but it's absolutely central to understanding this story.
And here's the belief at the very heart of it all. According to the source, it's the idea that humanity's ultimate purpose, or real reason for being here, is to create our own successor, a super-intelligent AI that will one day leave us in the dust. And this quote from Ben Goertzel, the guy running the AI lab in Ethiopia, it just perfectly captures the sheer scale of this ambition. It's not just about changing what it means to be human. It's about fundamentally rewriting reality itself.
So this project in Ethiopia might seem like some crazy, isolated case, but it's actually part of a much, much bigger trend that's happening all over the globe, this massive push for universal digital ID.
So you've really got these two competing stories about digital IDs. The official line, the one you hear in public, is that it's all about safety. Protecting kids online and making digital services more secure. But our source suggests there's a whole other agenda at play, using these systems as giant vacuum cleaners to suck up data and feed the never-ending hunger of AI.
And this is where it gets really troubling. We're talking about the personal data of millions of people, including children, being collected and used by massive corporations. And those people get no payment, they have no say, and there's no legal way for them to stop it. Their lives, their experiences are literally becoming the raw material for building these new forms of intelligence.
And that leaves us with this one final, really critical question. The story we've just walked through is incredibly complex, for sure, but it really all boils down to this. As artificial intelligence gets smarter and smarter, who gets to own the single most valuable resource on the planet? The data of human experience that makes it all possible.